You'll never succeed at anything. My father's words cut through the boardroom silence as 20 executives stared at me in shock. But what they didn't know was that I had just signed the papers to buy his entire company. Let me take you back to where this all began. My name is Sarah, and I'm 28 years old. Growing up in the prestigious Martinez family meant living under a microscope of expectations I could never meet. My father owned Martinez Industries, a multi-million-dollar manufacturing empire built over 3 generations. My older brother David was the golden child. Harvard MBA, perfect grades, destined to inherit everything. Me. I was the disappointment who barely graduated college and worked at a small tech startup. In our family, success was measured by one thing only: how much money you made and how quickly you climbed the corporate ladder. Every family dinner became a performance review where David's achievements were celebrated while my struggles were dissected like a failed business case study. My mother would smile apologetically whenever my father compared us, but she never defended me. Not once. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Like nothing you do will ever be enough? Share your story in the comments. You're not alone in this. The first public humiliation happened at my cousin's wedding when I was 24. During his toast, my father stood up and announced to 200 guests, "At least one of my children knows how to succeed in life." He raised his glass to David while I sat there, my face burning with embarrassment. My boyfriend at the time squeezed my hand under the table, but I could see the pity in his eyes. The second incident was worse. At my grandmother's 80th birthday party, my father introduced David to potential business partners as my successor and me as still figuring things out. I was 26 and had just helped my startup secure a major client. But in his eyes, if it wasn't his world, it didn't matter. The third blow came during Christmas dinner last year. My father announced that David would be promoted to Vice President of Operations with a starting salary of $200,000. Then he looked at me and said, "Maybe someday you'll find your calling, honey. Not everyone is cut out for business." The entire table went quiet. My aunt changed the subject quickly, but the damage was done. But the final straw happened 6 months ago at David's engagement party. My father gave a speech about legacy, about building something that lasts, about having a son who could carry on the family name with pride. Then he paused, looked directly at me, and said, "Sarah, I hope you find someone successful to take care of you, because let's be honest, business just isn't your strength." That night, lying in my apartment, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to prove them wrong with words. I was going to prove them wrong with actions they couldn't ignore or dismiss. I opened my laptop and started researching something I'd been thinking about for months: Martinez Industries' financial vulnerabilities. For 6 months, I worked in complete secrecy. My tech startup had connections with private equity firms, and I'd been learning about corporate acquisitions during our funding rounds. I discovered that Martinez Industries, despite its success, was heavily leveraged and facing cash flow problems due to several bad investments David had recommended. I started building relationships with key suppliers and clients, presenting myself as an independent consultant. I documented every inefficiency, every outdated process, every missed opportunity. I created a black binder filled with market analysis, competitor strategies, and a detailed restructuring plan that could save the company millions. Meanwhile, I secured backing from 3 different investment groups who were impressed by my research and business acumen. They agreed to fund a hostile takeover if the opportunity arose. My father had no idea that his unsuccessful daughter had spent months preparing for this moment. The board meeting was scheduled for a Thursday morning in March. My father had called it to discuss David's latest proposal for expanding into European markets, a plan that would have bankrupted the company within 2 years based on my analysis. I walked into that boardroom wearing my best suit, carrying my black binder, and took a seat at the far end of the table. My father looked annoyed. "Sarah, this is a closed business meeting. You don't belong here." I smiled and placed a stack of legal documents on the table. "Actually, Dad, as of this morning, I own 51% of Martinez Industries." I absolutely belong here. The room exploded. David's face went white. My father stood up so fast his chair fell backward. That's impossible. You don't have that kind of money. You work at some insignificant startup. I opened my binder and began reading the acquisition details. Martinez Industries stock has been undervalued for months due to poor management decisions. I identified this opportunity and secured backing from Palmer Equity Group, Morrison Capital, and Henderson Investments. The purchase was completed at 9 a.m. this morning for $47 million. My father's hands were shaking. You can't do this. This company is my life's work. Our family legacy. You're right, I said calmly. It is a legacy. And now it's my legacy to fix what decades of nepotism and poor decision-making have nearly destroyed. David finally found his voice. Sarah, you can't possibly understand how to run a company this size. You're making a huge mistake. I turned to the projector and began my presentation, the same one I'd perfected over 6 months of preparation. Every slide showed exactly how their brilliant strategies had cost the company millions, while my proposals would increase profits by 35% within the first year. The silence in that room was deafening. 20 executives who had dismissed me as the family disappointment were now hanging on every word of my restructuring plan. My father tried calling me that evening. Then my mother. Then David. I let every call go to voicemail. When I finally listened to them, the desperation in their voices was something I'd never heard before. My father, the man who'd spent years telling me I'd never amount to anything, was now begging for a meeting. The next morning, I arrived at Martinez Industries, now officially my company, to find my father waiting in what used to be his office. His shoulders were slumped, his confidence completely shattered. Sarah, he said quietly, I think we need to talk. I sat down across from him, the power dynamic completely reversed. You have 5 minutes. I know I haven't been supportive, but this company means everything to our family. Surely we can work something out. I leaned back in my chair and looked at this man who had spent my entire life making me feel small. Dad, you spent 28 years telling me I wasn't good enough for your world. Now your world belongs to me. The question is, are you good enough for mine? Within 3 months, Martinez Industries was profitable again. I implemented every strategy from my black binder, modernized our systems, and secured contracts that David's old-school approach could never have landed. The business press called it the most successful hostile takeover of the year. My family dynamics changed overnight. David, stripped of his VP title, now reports to me as a regional manager. My father, who I kept on as a consultant, not out of sentiment, but because his industry knowledge had value, now speaks to me with a respect I'd never experienced before. My mother called last week to invite me to Sunday dinner. Your father wants to apologize properly, she said. I told her I'd think about it. Some wounds take time to heal, but I'm no longer the invisible daughter seeking approval. Here's what I learned. The people who underestimate you aren't just wrong, they're giving you the greatest gift possible. They're motivating you to become someone they never thought you could be. Every dismissive comment, every public humiliation, every time they made you feel small, that becomes fuel for the fire that transforms you into someone unstoppable. If you're watching this and feeling invisible in your own life, remember that your comeback doesn't have to be loud to be devastating. Sometimes the quietest revenge is the most powerful one, success they can't ignore or explain away. Have you ever been underestimated by the people closest to you? How did you prove them wrong? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone else who needs to hear it today. And if this story resonated with you, if you felt that sting of being dismissed or overlooked, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Every week, I share stories of people who turned their pain into power and their setbacks into comebacks. Remember, the best revenge isn't getting even, it's becoming undeniable. Listen, if you made it this far, you're not just a viewer, you're part of a community of people who refuse to stay down. But I need you to do something right now that takes just 3 seconds but changes everything. Smash that like button if you've ever been underestimated. Drop a comment sharing one word that describes how this story made you feel, and subscribe if you want to see more stories of people who turn their biggest pain into their greatest power. But here's the thing, only 12% of people who watch actually subscribe, which means 88% of you are missing out on stories that could change your life. Don't be part of the 88% who let opportunities pass by. Hit that subscribe button and join the 12% who take action. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's being overlooked, dismissed, or told they'll never amount to anything, share this video with them right now. Sometimes one story is all it takes to spark the comeback someone desperately needs. Your engagement doesn't just help this channel, it tells YouTube that stories of resilience and triumph matter. So comment, like, share, and subscribe like your future self is watching. Because the person you become after watching this, that person takes action.